This is the architecture of the piece. If you can't take the repeats in a slow movement, then you are undoubtedly playing the movement too slowly. I am Robert Estrin. This is livingpianos.com. This is the second part, the second movement of the famous Mozart Sonata in C major, K545. And a lot of people think this movement is the easy movement. But in some ways, the second movement is the most challenging to pull off. Why is that? Because it's a sustained melody. And we all know that on the piano, as soon as you play a note, it's fading away. So how do you get a sustained line at the piano? That is the question for today. Now, the first critical thing is tempo, because just what I just showed you there, how notes are fading out, the slower you play, the more difficult it is to sustain a melody. Watch if I play this really slowly, how laborious it is, and the melody loses all continuity. Now, there are two reasons for this. First of all, it doesn't have that rhythmic feel, but more importantly, the left-hand notes, which are happening on every single 16th, reinforce themselves while the melody gets lost. So, number one, this is an andante. Andante, it has motion. It literally translates like walking. So you can think of it as being a nice tempo to the quarter note, not the 16th note, not the 8th note. And if you do that, then you're going to get a sound like this. And that gives you a nice flowing sound. So there are two aspects of this movement that are critical. One is the balance between the hands, that the right hand melody is stronger than the left hand. And remember, the more slowly you play, the more you must delineate the difference between melody and accompaniment. This is really important, and lock this away, because this isn't just true of this movement, it's the natural acoustics of the piano. So try as you might at a really slow tempo, getting the balance between the hands would be extraordinarily difficult. That is really hard to project that much sound. So how is this done? Because if you can do it like that, playing it up the tempo will be a breeze. The secret is using the weight of the arm. That is to say that instead of just playing the attack of the note and then having a limp finger, just like a singer doesn't just project the breath for each note, but between the notes to get the musical line, the diaphragm support. And that is what you need in the piano. The analog is the weight of the arm, so that you pretend in your mind's eye, your mind's ear, more importantly, the sustain of the line. And so even though you're playing that first note, and it's not going to get louder no matter how hard you continue to press on it, in your head you hear that note sustaining to the next note while leaning heavier into it and creating that beautiful line. Notice also the rise and the fall. This is the other tremendous challenge. You want to have the rise and the fall of each phrase while maintaining a distinction between melody and harmony. And that's what makes this movement come alive. How often I've heard people play this movement and they start at this really slow tempo. And then what they do is they just leave out all the repeats because the repeats make it ungodly long at that tempo. In fact, this is an indication when you are playing a tempo too slow in an andante, particularly when you can't take repeats because it's just too long. You think Mozart put these repeats in there for sport? No. This is the architecture of the piece. If you can't take the repeats in a slow movement, then you are undoubtedly playing the movement too slowly. So you want to think of each phrase. Now, it starts off really in two-measure phrases. Now, breath and new phrase. Now a four-measure phrase. So here I have these two-measure phrases, then a four-measure phrases. At any point in this movement, you must be either getting louder or getting softer. Just like when I'm talking to you now, there's not a sentence that isn't going up and coming back down again, or it sounds robotic if it's just all the same, and your music will also sound robotic. I had the balance between the hands, but no shape to the phrase. It's lifeless. You must bring life to your music. Now, there's basically four sections to this movement, and there's an absolutely gorgeous G minor section that I want to play for you for just a moment so you can hear what this is like. And what I do here, and I suggest you try this also, is for a change of color, if you've got a grand piano, depress the una corda, the soft pedal, to get a change of tone, as you will hear now. And it goes on with that absolutely gorgeous minor section. And then you have a recapitulation of sorts where the return to the beginning and then a little coda. And the entire movement is basically based upon the concept of delineating melody far above the accompaniment by using the weight of the arm with a rise and a fall in every phrase. Be clear where the phrases begin and end, where the breath is. And go ahead and sing the melody. Live that melody. Understand the melody intuitively. For those of you who play a wind instrument or a bowed instrument, play it on those other instruments so you can get the sense of a lyrical line. The greatest challenge in piano playing is being able to create the illusion of a singing line, because there is no way to actually get a crescendo on the piano on any single note. So you must then reinforce and superimpose your will to be able to create this magic of the singing line at the piano. And what better way than this gorgeous slow movement of Mozart in this K545 C major sonata. I hope you've enjoyed this, and try these techniques not just on this sonata movement, try it on any piece. If you have a nocturne, a Chopin nocturne, any lyrical music at all, there's always a rise and a fall. Delineate the balance between the hands more than you think you need to by having the right arm, the melody, assuming it's in the right hand, with a heavy arm and a light arm in the left hand. And as I said, the biggest challenge is usually have more notes reinforcing every single 8th note or 16th note in the left hand against these long sustained notes. So you must make the balance much more extreme than you think you need to in order to achieve that melody singing above the accompaniment. I'm Robert Estrin. Thanks so much for joining me and all your subscribers. This is livingpianos.com, your online piano resource.